Hey, Kari, it's great to have you on board the Algarve Entrepreneur video podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's cool because we've been seeing you at all the meetups and stuff, and because you've been in the Algarve for quite a while. How long have you been down here?
It's only been about 8 months now.
All right,
Yeah, but so far so good.
cool. And how's it been going? You enjoying it? Actually, let's sort of what brought you to Portugal, and was it always part of the plan to run a business from here?
Yeah, so good question because moving to Portugal and also starting my own business were not on the plan. Even as of a few years ago, I would have thought you were crazy if you told me this was going to happen. Because I'm originally from the States, and then back in 2019, I was lucky enough. I was working for a company that was based in San Diego, but they had a few offices in Europe, and a job opportunity in the Switzerland office came up. And my husband and I had always wanted to move abroad. So we moved to Switzerland end of 2019 and lived there for 5 years, which was great. And also confirmed for us that we prefer living in Europe versus the States.
But it must have been quite a culture shock going to Switzerland from California, right?
Yes, I think it was in a good way. I would say it was more of a culture shock going from Switzerland to Portugal.
You really?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, should we talk about that? Like, how did that come about, and why Portugal of all places?
Yeah, so we loved Switzerland, but it was around 2023 that I was ready for a change in my career. I'd spent about 20 years working in corporate finance roles, and I was wanting to start my own business. My husband was not enjoying the Swiss winters because he was used to Southern California weather, and we're big cyclists and we love being outside. So
So you guys didn't translate to skiing much.
we were cross country skiers, but where we lived each winter was getting more and more rain and less snow. So you kind of had to keep going further to find the snow.
Right.
Ironically, the first winter we left, they had a fantastic winter with tons of snow, but
Ain't that the case?
yeah. But yeah, I think it was around middle 2023 that we both started thinking, okay, I think we're ready to leave Switzerland, but where should we go? Honestly, we didn't know much about Portugal. And my husband started doing some research of, okay, the visa options look pretty good. The climate in southern Portugal looks kind of what we would like to go back to. I think we probably binge watched every video you had.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was great. And then, end of 2023, we basically came to the Algarve for the first time for 2 weeks, kind of as a scouting trip to see, okay, could we see ourselves living here? And we loved it. So when we went back to Switzerland early 2024, we just started working on the visa process. I started working on getting my business set up. And then, we moved end of last summer.
Oh, excellent. So so over the last 8 months, how do you reckon the weather has equated to San Diego if you can look back to California?
So we were sold on sunny Algarve, which has not happened. So we're really hoping this is a fluke and that we didn't bring a new trend with us. But
Yeah, just to put that in context for you guys out there who don't know, we've had a really, really wet spring, and it's highly unusual. It's the worst rain we've had in 20 years, so it's bizarre. So I promise you, it's not always like this, Kari.
that's what they say. So we keep waiting. We keep thinking it'll be March, it'll get better. It'll be April, it'll get better. So
I know, and today, I mean, what are we in, sort of the 7th of May? And it's unbelievably chilly, isn't it? It's like it was 14, 15 degrees this morning, which is crazy. So
yeah.
not normal. It should be 25 degrees already. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But many people see the Algarve as like a retirement destination. But you here as a young professional running an international business, how's that shaped your experience? And have you run into any difficulties because of that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the retirement destination because even when I left my job in Switzerland, I had a few Portuguese coworkers, and one was even from the Algarve. And when I mentioned I was leaving and we were moving to Portugal, they both said, "You're moving to Portugal. Are you retiring?" And I was like, "Well, not yet. I would like to, but not quite there yet." But it was interesting that even their perception of where they were from was, "Oh, it's just retired people living there." So when we moved here, I'll admit we kind of had that in the back of our head too of, okay, are we going to have any friends that are
Your age, yeah.
yes, not
Yeah.
in their retired stage of life? And are there other young people here? But I've been pleasantly surprised of, the diversity here, both from ages, but also backgrounds. And there are, still a lot of people. I think COVID probably helped with more remote work being kind of more welcomed now. There are so many young professionals that are moving here and they're still in their kind of prime careers and wanting to keep developing their careers. So that's been a nice surprise to see that it's not, okay, I just got to stay on Zoom in my, office at
But
home.
yeah, that's a big question, because do you think there are opportunities for people working on the ground here, or do you think everybody has to work remotely or bring their business with them?
Yeah, I do think there is opportunity. And I will admit, when I moved here and the plan was, for me to be doing my business remotely, and I initially thought, okay, I'm just going to focus on US based clients because that's what I know. That's where most of my connections are outside of Switzerland. And being here and realizing how much opportunity there is here, I have now started to shift of, well, wait a second. Yes, I can, keep working with clients in the US, but there are plenty of businesses here that are applicable to my services. There's also a lot of foreigners that have moved here that own businesses located elsewhere and they're running them remotely. So, for example, I met a friend in town that she has a startup based back in the States, but she lives here in Sauerbrash. She has employees in US and India, and she's running the company from Sauerbrash, so
Wow. Yeah.
there definitely is a lot more opportunity than I expected to work with local based clients as well.
Yeah, and we sort of talked about your business, but let's kind of define what it is exactly, because otherwise we don't know what we're talking about. So what exactly do you do?
Good point. Yeah. So I provide financial advisory services to small businesses. So I work with business owners to help them better understand kind of where all the money is flowing in and out of their business, and then help guide them on how to put a plan in place to get the business generating more profit and more cash flow. So one of the questions I get a lot is, well, I already have an accountant. Isn't that the same thing?
Hmm.
And they're kind of two separate things, in my opinion. So your accountant is very much needed and your financial statements are needed, but accountants are very much recording the past, and that's kind of where they stop. And then where I come in is where they leave off, is helping the business owner, first of all, make sense of what do these financial statements even mean, and then help guide them on how to move the business kind of into the future.
Okay, excellent. So it's nothing. So it's very different to a personal financial advisor. So it's not
Yeah.
about financial wealth or anything like that. It's all about business consultancy to a degree, right?
Yes, exactly. I do get that question a lot too of, oh, you do financial advisory. I want to start investing. And I say, well, great, go talk to someone else. But yeah, I'm very much just focused on the business financials and helping, business can't stay in business if it doesn't have cash flow. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so we were talking just briefly about your clients. Are they at this stage? Are they mostly American businesses, or where are your clients?
right now they're mostly US. I have helped kind of more smaller one-off projects with a few companies here, but right now US
Mhm.
based.
Okay, great. And but obviously, like you said, you're looking at maybe doing some local work with local companies here, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of being on the finance side and not the accounting side, because accounting with more compliance, you do need to know more of the local laws and the local tax laws. With
Mm.
the financial advising, the principles apply to every business, whether they are Portuguese based, US, European, et cetera. So it is nice that I can still support businesses regardless of their location.
Absolutely. Okay, so now in the sort of community, the Algarve business community, what's the ecosystem like in the Algarve for someone in your position? Are there networks or communities that you've connected with?
Yeah, that's been another pleasant surprise. I feel like each month I keep finding new groups and kind of new events to go attend, but I got lucky in the beginning, actually, thanks to some of your videos where you highlighted floor with loft.
Hmm.
And I was initially thinking the loft group would be good just for social connections, but it is great for social, but there is also, a lot of entrepreneurs within that community and other people that either have their own businesses or working remote for other businesses. So that's been a great angle. And then another
So
one.
can I just expand on that quickly? So just for those guys out there who don't know what Loft is, it's Lole, Algarve, Faro, and Tavira. And it's a business, it's a digital nomad community, but it's sort of, not everybody's a digital nomad there. There are a lot of remote workers living here and younger people, tech types as well. I don't know. How do you define it, really? Do you
I don't know if you can, because it kind of hits
Yeah.
everything. Because you do run into the digital nomads who are, oh, I'm in the Algarve for 2 months and I just want to pop in and meet people. I have met a lot of people in that group that came here initially thinking they were going to be here for 1 or 2 months time and just never left, and now it's been years down the road. But yeah, there are a lot of tech people. There's also a lot of people in like the health and wellness space. But yeah, it's kind of a very all backgrounds and all interests within that group.
And a ton of social activities that happen as well. Huh? I mean,
Yeah, they do a ton of social activities, but then they also have co-working meetups, which are nice for those of us that, work by ourselves in a maybe home office type situation, to be able to get out and interact with more people. They're also starting to do a lot of good events where, they'll have a marketing person come in and do, a little, I'm blanking on the term.
like a little keynote sort of speech
Thank
or
you.
something.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. So there's kind of an educational twist to it as well, but it's great just to kind of make connections both on the business and the personal side.
Okay. And have you connected with any other kind of communities or business networking opportunities around here?
Yeah. So that within Loft, someone I met there introduced me to Algarve Evolution, which has been great as well. They're doing a lot of work to try and grow the startup ecosystem and the entrepreneurial community within the Algarve. So that's been great because they also do a lot of events around, AI and, different.
That's definitely more tech focused, isn't it? Algarve Evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually the one at the AI events where afterwards I have to go up to the speaker and be like, okay, what does that mean? And like, but they're very welcoming, even to the non-techie people like me.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few of their events as well, and it's amazing because they are regular and they're all over the place. So it's very well organized. And they once did a walk and talk down in Quinta do Lago, which is really cool format. It's a really cool format. Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
have you been to any one of those before?
Not the walk and talks. And I actually don't know if it's part of Algarve Evolution. I get confused. I know you talked about this in one of your early podcasts with Jens, but like Grow Algarve, it's connected to Algarve Evolution, but I don't know if it's the same. But
Yeah, I know that. I just see them as all together: Algarve Evolution, Grow Algarve, and then the Algarve Tech Hub's in there as well. So I think it's all related somehow. I think.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. There's just so many events, and you do see a lot of the same people at the events, which is nice. But then there's always new people as well. The other thing that's been great is even sometimes people that have moved here that are in their kind of retirement phase, those that have had, solid careers or have owned businesses in the past, a lot of them, for lack of a better word, can't really sit still. So they come to a lot of the events and they help in like mentorship capacities for various like startup programs on the weekends. And, when I talk to them, even though they're not still working, they're like, oh, I might have connections in the Netherlands or back in Germany or et cetera for you. So it's
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that because there's so much knowledge that is, basically a lot of oldish people sitting around, not doing much, and then it's so lovely to be able to see them giving back to the local community.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other communities that you're a part of or aware of?
Some of the other ones are like the Algarve Women's Network. They're starting to do some more trying to support women that are kind of wanting to pivot in their careers and starting out, maybe they don't have an idea of what they want to do for a business. So they do a lot of really good events around, how do you come up with an idea or how do you create your brand? How do you get your messaging out there?
And is that focused on Lule or is it like Algarve wide?
That's Algarve wide. Yeah.
Okay.
And that one is a very big range of, some women that aren't working, some women that kind of still are, and some that are thinking about, maybe getting back into it. She Sapiens is another one. I've popped into some of their events. That's another women's one to kind of support entrepreneurs and their kind of.
Isn't that international as well? She Sapiens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it started in Portugal, but now I think they do have like a few in Spain and I'm blanking on some other countries, but yeah, they're starting to go more global as well, which is great.
Excellent, yeah. And I know there's a ton of stuff happening up in Lisbon, but also further west in the Algarve, the Portimao Digital Nomads. Have you ever been to any of their events?
Yes, yeah, and I've met
Yeah,
the two women that runs those, and I mean, theirs are impressive. They
I know.
sometimes have just a random happy hour and 100+ people show up. So I think they even have a
Yeah,
hard time figuring out where can they host that in the Algarve, where most bars have like one bartender. But
I think they're well connected in Portimao, so they just cruise around to all the bars and just gift them with
yeah,
with a whole bunch of business, which is amazing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they're an amazing group. They're really and they're so friendly and so welcoming. I thought, well, if I'm not living in Portimao, am I allowed to go? And they were like, yeah, for sure, come along, and they were really, really helpful. So
yeah.
that's a great bunch. And then obviously there's Lagos Digital Nomads. Have you connected with them at all?
Not yet, but yeah, I see a lot of those events, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that'd be good, but it's just do I want to make the trek over there or not? But
I was going to say, you're going to get stuck into that sort of 20-minute thing with Algarve, where anything further than 20 minutes drive away, it's just impossible to even think about. Where most of our clients are from the US, and they're like, oh, we drive 1.5 hours, no problem. But it does become a problem in the Algarve. Everyone seems to
well, and
close down.
the funny thing here is I'll be like, oh, it's so far, but you know it's going to take you exactly the same amount of time to get there because there's no traffic. Where I'm from in the States, you could drive that hour and 10 and you're not even out of, you know, LA. so,
Right.
so in hindsight, it shouldn't be a big deal to me, but there is so much opportunity everywhere within the Algarve. It is easy to kind of stay in your bubble and not, venture too far.
Sure. But how do you balance running an international business with a lifestyle in the Algarve? Like, what does a typical day look like for you? I know you're really into cycling. What else?
Yeah. Well, it's hard, especially because we are part of a cycling group that has a lot of retired people. So sometimes when it's like, oh, they're planning a bike ride on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. and they're going to be going for 4 hours and multiple cafe stops, it's like, oh, that'd be nice. But
Yeah, you got to work, right? Yeah.
yeah. But at the same time, now that I am my own boss, it's nice because I can have more flexibility. And, right now working with US based clients, that means most of my calls are afternoons and evenings, but I just try to flex it to where, okay, if I have a call in the evening with the US, then maybe I'll go on a little bit longer bike ride in the morning or, take a break during the day. So it is a struggle because it's like, ooh, I want to go cycling. There's so many amazing hiking trails here. The beach is 20 minutes away, but then you do have to remind yourself, oh, wait, I am still working. I'm not,
Not
I'm in
retired
the
yet.
destination, but I'm not retired yet.
Yeah. There's so much to do there, isn't it? So, but doesn't that really impact on your social life, like for dinner and stuff? Because if you're working on LA time all the time.
Yeah, it's actually not too bad because I mean, the joys of modern technology these days, like I use tools like Calendly. I don't know if you've used that one before, but
Yeah.
basically you can go in and set your own hours. And then when a client in the US is going to schedule an appointment, so, if there's an event I know about, I'll just block my calendar off. And, I try to make sure I'm available at least a couple nights a week. I don't stay up super late. Usually I'm done with clients by like 7 p.m. my time. So that's really not too big of a deal and, just try to balance it so that it's not all the time. But that would be another benefit of, working with more local based companies so I could balance that and have some more work during the day versus the afternoons and evenings.
Yeah, or even European companies, I suppose, just in the same time zone, or
Yeah.
even South African companies, I guess, if you wanted to. Same
Yes.
time zone,
Actually,
yeah.
one of my clients is, well, she's based in New York, but she's South African and half of the team is in South Africa. So that one works quite well.
That does, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what aspects of living in the Algarve have been most beneficial for your professional life? Perhaps in ways that you didn't expect.
I think for me, kind of two unexpected things. I didn't expect there to be so much opportunity with these various groups, both for networking, but for educational purposes as you're, you know, starting out businesses and whatnot. But the other thing that I wasn't expecting is just meeting so many people here that have moved to the Algarve and have completely pivoted and are doing something completely different than they had done before. And to me, that's really inspiring because coming from the States, I feel like a lot of us get stuck in our careers and a lot of people frame their identity around their career. And then they get to a point where they're maybe not happy in their career anymore, but they don't think they have another option. And, a lot of it is hard. You got to provide for your family. Cost of living globally is going up, so
Sure.
not everyone has the luxury of saying, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. Right. But I was really surprised moving here and meeting so many people that have just made complete 180 pivots and are doing completely different things. And it's very inspiring, especially, I don't think me leaving a corporate finance career to then go into kind of financial consulting for small businesses is that big of a pivot, but
sure. But I mean, it's a change, isn't it? I mean, it's a different target market completely.
It's risky to leave the guaranteed paycheck that you've been used to for 20 years. And so it was amazing moving here and just meeting so many people right off the bat where I'm like, okay, like I'm not the only crazy person to think that there is another way that I want to do this.
But do you think it's a case of if needs must? So people come here and because there are no corporate finance opportunities around here. So they have to try and create something of an entrepreneurial nature.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I would say definitely in the past, I think if people wanted to come here and didn't want to have to do a, remote online business, you did need to completely pivot, right? But I think it'll be interesting to see how does that change going into the future, because I think there are more and more people moving here, groups like Algarve Evolution and the Algarve Tech Hub and, STP and things like that, trying to encourage the more kind of not just entrepreneurial, but even just more traditional business opportunities here within the Algarve. It'll be interesting to see, does it shift and does it become a place where people start looking for jobs instead of just saying, okay, I want to move there, but how am I going to make money?
Yeah, because I mean, traditionally, I always said that, I've said this many times. I mean, the Algarve's basically got three major industries. I mean, there's tourism, there's real estate, and there's construction. But hopefully, that's trying to sort of, and that's what's so amazing about what Algarve Evolution and Grow Algarve and Dangan are doing. Those guys in Faro, is that they really are trying to sort of do like a startup incubation almost, and trying to promote some more tech, I guess, more techie companies in the Algarve, which is fantastic because people do need more options.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to see these kind of companies growing up. And I remember going on a sort of networking event with them and chatting to these young guys who had these really great, solid ideas. And they were from Faro, you know what I mean? They weren't foreigners coming in, which is wonderful to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. They do some really great things too, of like these startup weekends, or even they kind of start with the startup weekends where I've heard stories of people that get thrown in a random group of 4 people they've never met before. And by the end of the weekend, they already have a business idea and they're already starting to run and go after it. And then, Algarve Evolution and Dangan, they have a lot. They're doing a lot of good work of also trying to get funding connected to these ideas. So getting, people here exposed to, angel investors and other things to kind of get these ideas off the ground. So it will be interesting to see, does that hopefully kick up more in the coming years?
Yeah, I hope so. And it'd be lovely to see the Algarve as a destination for sort of young up and coming professionals. But at the moment, do you still think it's a destination for retirees, or do you think it's mutating?
It's definitely still a good place for retirees to come, but I think my answer to that is definitely shifting the more and more I meet of other people that are still in their professional careers and moving here. But that's the thing, is we're seeing more and more every day, because obviously we help people relocate to Portugal and to the Algarve in particular. And more every day we're seeing people going, I've got, a 4-year-old kid and a 6-year-old kid. So they're coming in their 40s and, early 40s and early 50s. And they're just not, it seems to me like the age dynamic is changing a bit, which is exciting. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it feels like, even though I haven't been here for long. But yeah, it's exciting to see that. But I also hope with these organizations that are trying to kind of build the culture within the Algarve of helping these startups, it would be nice to see too. I think it's unfortunate when you see younger Portuguese coming out of university, but they feel like they need to move elsewhere. To start their careers. It would be great if they want, or, maybe they stay within Portugal, but they think, okay, I got to go to Lisbon or Porto to get more of the bigger industries and whatnot. It would be nice if that option is valid to say, hey, no, I can stay in the Algarve and, have a great career here as well.
But you're right. I mean, like my daughter's 17 and she's just about to leave school, and all her friends are like, okay, we're going overseas. They don't even consider Portugal to stay, which is kind of sad. You're right. It is kind of sad. But is there anything about living and working in the Algarve that you wish that you had known before making the move? Or did you figure it out all from our videos beforehand?
The videos definitely helped. I don't know if it's something I wish I would have known, but our experience of moving to Switzerland versus moving to Portugal has been very different in a good way. One of the reasons we did leave Switzerland was we had a hard time building a community, and, we had our cycling community, but outside of that, it was very hard to make friends with, local Swiss people or, people that weren't cyclists. Yeah. And so, there is always that fear of, okay, we're moving to another place. Are we going to go back to, my husband and I just staring at each other every weekend because we don't have any friends? And I don't think I would have believed someone if they had told me how easy it has been to meet friends here and make a community. And yes, you have to put the effort in, you got to go find the groups and the meetups to go to, but it's been great. I think so many people moved here for common reasons and, wanting a certain quality of life and a certain lifestyle that you kind of already start off on the ground with a similar footing. So it's been amazing of, how many people we have met and the community we feel like we already have here, even in a short time. And, I think if anybody's concerned about, I want to move to the Algarve, but I don't want to move away from all of my friends and, the community that I know, if you're open to it, there's definitely plenty of opportunity to build that here as well.
That's fantastic because, so a lot of people have been saying to me, hey, why don't you make a video about finding community? And I think, well, I don't think people really have a problem finding community here because there are so many Facebook groups, so many WhatsApp groups, and everyone's getting together. We're trying to sort of limit our social interaction, just sort of chill time, do more chill time ourselves because we don't have time for more friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's hard. It's just crazy. So it's lovely to have that problem,
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I feel like in the first month of being here, we had more social engagements than 5 years in Switzerland. And I did get to the point where I was like, okay, we got to start saying no because I'm exhausted and I just want, exactly. a night to myself and I got to be working. And
yeah, no, it's important. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kari, for spending the time and telling us all about your business. Where can people find you online if they need to get some business advice?
Yeah. So you can either find me on LinkedIn or, I didn't pick a good company name. So my business is called Domestique Financial, and you as a cyclist might pick up on this, but it's a reference to professional cycling because
Domestique.
Yep. Yeah. So for people that don't know cycling, a domestique rider in professional cycling is typically the rider on a team that their job is to basically make the life of the lead rider easier and kind of block the wind for them, do everything they can to make it easier for the lead guy, and then they kind of step away at the end and hope that the lead can, the main GC rider can kind of win the race, right? So that's what I try and do for my businesses is I don't need to be in the limelight. I don't need to take the credit for things, but I just want to make the business owners' life easier and hopefully help them succeed.
But that's a cool name for your business. So whenever people say, well, why is it called Domestique? Is it domestiqueinternational.com? Is that what it was?
Domestiquefinancial.com.
Sorry, yeah. Domestiquefinancial.com. So, you can always have a good story to explain that because I didn't know that at all. And I'm always so curious. There's so many different terminology in cycling that's French. Is it because it was invented there or something, or what?
Yeah. And when I started the business, I was living in the French region of Switzerland. So in my head, domestique for cycling plus French, it made sense. But now. When people are especially Americans are domestic finance, I'm like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with it. But I probably should have had a branding specialist help me out on that. But, you learn as you go.
No, but it sounds very chic. It's very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Kari, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. And it's lovely to see you again.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. And we still need to go on that bike ride sometime soon.
One day. She cycles too far for me.
You can't hide behind the rain anymore. Our weather seems to be turning for the better now.
Yeah, it's true. algarveaddicts.com.